right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Cynthia Modders. I'm with ArmyPink. And today, as we always do, we're shining a light on abuse. And ArmyPink is a brand that really hopes to enlighten and share and educate on various topics in this area. So we always have guests that can lend their stories and point of view in hopes that they help someone in a abusive relationship. And today we're very excited because we have Candy Washington. Hi, Candy.
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you. And I'm really excited about Candy. Just a little background about her. She's a writer, she's an actor, she's a producer. Like you produced this movie, right? Narcissist,
Narcissist, yeah.
which we'll get into.
Yeah.
And but I think most importantly, what I love about what you're all about is sort of this journey to self-love and how to manifest a better lifestyle. And I think that that's one of the things we haven't talked about. Like we've had a lot of people that have experienced abuse, and they talked about the red flags and they talked about how they got out of it, but we haven't until now talked about the genesis of maybe if we think differently, if we act differently and manifest. And I try to do this in my life too. Like I try to stay positive. And I think if we can do that from the onset, that can maybe prevent us from getting into these situations, because we're setting ourselves up for what I like to call like raising the bar. Like this is the kind of lifestyle we want to live, right? And so do you want to talk a little bit about, I think, the different segments you have, because you also have written a book. I think it was Heal from Heartbreak.
Heal from Heartbreak. I think that was a podcast episode I did, but I do have the self-love journey book as well. The self-love journey. Yeah.
Okay.
So I can talk about the different things I do, but then I could also jump into manifestation and the different aspects of that when it comes to relationships and self-love. So
that would be great.
Yeah, I'll jump into like the meat and then we can talk about all the other stuff.
Awesome. And one thing I noticed in doing a little research, one thing you said that I thought was pretty profound, I think I wrote it down here. It was about you have to, you can't stuff the negative thoughts. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. I think that when it comes to manifestation, how I personally define it is that it's just making the invisible, the intangible, your consciousness, your thoughts, who you be inside, evident, manifested in the physical world. And that can show up as your relationships. It can show up as money in your bank. It can show up in your car, your houses, how you feel about yourself. So it's really the essence of manifestation. But you break it down in 3 different ways. So there's one concept of self-love, which is cultivating a compassionate relationship to yourself. Then there's self-care, which is the tools and the techniques and the practices that you use in order to cultivate that loving relationship. So it's not just spa days and lattes, which is great, but it's really the intentionality behind it. It's also having healthy boundaries. It's also, seeing red flags and then stopping the relationship, or knowing what a green flag in a relationship is. It's having emotional intelligence. It's talking to yourself in a loving way. That's all self-care. The spa days are great, but it's I deserve to take a break. I deserve to take care of myself. That's the self-care part, not actually what you're doing, but why you're doing it. Meditating, prayer, therapy, going to coaching, group classes, walking in nature. All of that is self-care. It's I love myself, therefore I take care of myself. And then the third part that a lot of people miss, it also goes into manifestation, is self-concept. And this plays a huge part in relationships. So your self-concept is, who do you think you are, which is how people can treat you, how you can show up, who you are in relationship to other things. So who do you think you are in a relationship to money? Who do you think you are in relationship to romantic relationships? Who do you think you are in relationship to, success and friendships? That's why you have some people who have really toxic relationships, but yet they're killing it at work. because
But do
they're
you think people are honest in that, self-concept? Like, I think some people see themselves as one way, but if you
Mhm.
ask a group around them, they'd be like, oh my gosh, you're not even like that. Like, how do they get the real truth of who they are?
Yeah, so the way you get the real truth of who you are, it's not so much necessarily of this is what I think about myself and this is what somebody else thinks. Getting to the truth of who you are is knowing that the ultimate truth with a capital T is that you are worthy, you are deserving, and you are valuable, and you are enough. That is the actual truth of who you are. But if you want to get self-awareness of how you're actually being, all you have to do is a couple of things. One, take an inventory of your life. Take an inventory of what does your finances look like? What is the health of your relationships? What is your actual health, your body health? That will tell you how you're thinking and how you're being, because how you think and how you be is how you show up. So if you have this belief that, I have to sacrifice in relationships, or my person is going to leave me, or relationships are hard, or all men cheat, or all women are gold diggers, or whatever it is, then your life will give you examples of that.
Yeah. And also, I guess if you looked at like, okay, my finances are in disarray. I keep having breakups, or I keep going back to the same type of person that is not healthy. I'm maybe not sustaining a job and a career. I guess that you can reflect back on and go, okay, so I need to look at this.
Yes. And the best way to look at it is you break it down and then think about what are the thoughts, the most dominant thoughts, which is your belief system that I believe to be true about this particular area of my life. Do I believe that I have to work hard for every single dollar? Do I believe that as quick as money comes in, as quick as it goes out? When it comes to relationships, do I believe that I have to prove my worthiness and value? Do I believe that whatever I get, I just deserved it? It's all my fault, or I have to fix people, right? If I could
Or
just
please be a people pleaser.
Or do I have to please people? Do I think other people matter more than myself? And so that's how you get an honest assessment of what you're thinking about, of who you're being in each area. And so then once you're clear on, you know what, I say I want a healthy relationship, but I actually don't think I'm good enough for one. I say I want to have, a successful career, but I actually think that people like me don't make it.
Right.
No. And so once you get clear on what is your belief system, because that's what you're manifesting, you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you believe to be true for yourself. And so once you are clear on what your belief system is, then you have the power to change it. You can change it through affirmations, through, positive self-talk. You can change it through therapy, just any ways to get your belief system from I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough for whatever it is, to I'm worthy and I'm good enough and I deserve to live and to create the life that I want. And then once you shift your belief system, then things outside of you will start to change.
Right. And I think that too, changing the habits and how you talk,
Yes.
because I have friends that I notice go to like the half empty. And I'm like, why are you going to like change that? Like catch yourself, change it, and then make it more affirmative and positive.
Exactly. And it's like you said earlier, you could be negative, like glass half full, but everybody else is like, well, what do you mean? It's great. It's this. So it doesn't really matter what the it is. What matter is what is your perception? What is the lens that you're viewing it through? Because that will determine your ultimate happiness. You could be in the same exact situation, but if your perspective is negative, half empty, then you're not going to be fulfilled. You're going to have low self-esteem. You're going to be, unhappy, unfulfilled, woe is me, victim mentality. But the same person or a different person could have the same circumstance, or they could be looking at your circumstance and be like, what are you talking about? You have so many things to be appreciate, to be grateful for. I would love to be in the position you're in. So it's never about the circumstance itself necessarily, just like you said. It's about what perspective am I bringing to this situation? That's why your attitude is so important. That's why your mindset is so important. And that's
do
why
you think you have to trust yourself a little more to get there too? Like, I think it's confidence in yourself.
100%. 100%. You have to learn to trust that you are the actual authority on you. Oftentimes, we're so looking out of ourselves to tell us how we should be, to tell us how we should react, to tell us if we're good enough. You know, I'm looking to the man to choose me, to know that I'm lovable. I'm looking to my boss to promote me, to know that I'm worthy of success. I'm looking to friends to tell me that my life choices are enough or validated. I'm looking to my parents to tell me that, you know, I'm okay in the world. We're always looking outside of ourselves to tell us who we are and how we should feel. But the truth is, in our authentic selves, in our own intuition and that still voice, the answer is always within us. Because our lives are unique and we are the authority on us. So when you stop looking outward and you start looking inward, that's really how you take your power back. That's really how you take your authority back. And from that place, you can start to co-create a life that is authentically happy to you. Because what makes me happy might not make you happy. You know, that's why people can, again, back to, we could be in the same exact circumstance. I'm super happy and you're really depressed, because we are unique human beings. And we fall into this trap that we have to look like everybody on Instagram, or we have to look like everybody on TikTok, or you have to have a kid by 30, you have to be married by 27, you have to have this amount in the bank account, you have to live in this type of neighborhood. But if that doesn't authentically make you happy, you could check all the boxes, but still be miserable on the inside. And our life is meant to be enjoyed. And we get enjoyment from our authentic.
On the social media aspect. I think because we're living in the social media world so much, and everybody looks so perfect and so great, and everything they show is so happy and their lives are amazing, that is kind of giving this false sense of what's reality. And then people are looking for this validation, and it kind of creates this chaos in their life that, you know, doesn't set them up for success by any means.
Exactly. Like, comparison is the ultimate killer of joy. And it also will stop your manifestation from coming to you, because instead of embodying, you know, I'm worthy, I'm good enough, I'm choosing what I want, focusing on the, you know, the glass being half full, you're focused on, why don't I have this by now? I should be here by now. This person has that by now. It's where are you predominantly focused? You know, are you focused on lack, not enough, you know, shoulda, woulda, couldas, or are you focused on, this is my life, this is my trajectory, I choose what I have, and I not only trust in myself, but I trust that there's a higher. I trust that there's a divine plan. I trust that there's something bigger than me, who knows better than me, who has the timing on track. So instead of trying to control the timing based on some random person on Instagram or society or family pressure, which is usually family trauma, I'm going to trust myself that I know what is best for me, and I'm going to trust in something greater than me, that they know when and how to bring it to me.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, so often, you know, we're looking for that validation and then we don't find it. And then it kind of creates this depression. And I think that we have to really start at the core about, you know, coming back to your self-love, like getting yourself happy by yourself, right? And like, maybe like you said, getting involved in like going out for a walk and being in nature. Like, don't look to be entertained or you know, have that company by somebody else all the time. Like, look to fulfill yourself, get out, get active, you know, do walks, right? Do all of that stuff that'll kind of enrich you as a person, so that you can be by yourself without a need.
100%. Because, you know, just like I was saying again with manifestation, you manifest in your outside world who you are, your beingness. So if you fill yourself up with self-love, You're already full of love. You're already claiming yourself. You're cherishing yourself. You're prioritizing yourself. Everything that you want someone else to give you, you're giving yourself. So when you are full of that love and of that validation and of that wholeness, then that is what then will be reflected to you in your healthy relationships. Because when we lack that, we then in unhealthy or toxic or abusive relationships, what's actually being reflected back is the lack. That's why they're toxic. That's why they're unhealthy. But when we're full of our self-love, when we know how to take care of ourselves, when we know how to trust ourselves, that no matter what happens, I will have myself, I will have my own back. That's when you can then go out into the world as a much more empowered, confident, self-assured, self-validating person. Because I'm not waiting for somebody else to tell me I'm okay. I know I'm okay. And whether or not this relationship works out, that's fine, because I will still be okay. Because no matter who leaves, I'm not going to abandon myself.
And thereby you become attractive person. And I don't mean attractive like a pretty person. I mean, when you have that self-confidence and you are feeling okay by yourself and you're fulfilling your life with things that bring you up, you, I think, become instantly attracted to people that are like-minded like that, healthy like that, right? And then, you know, it's like you're drawn, you're like a magnet. And like you said, what you lack, you might be attracting those that also kind of lack that, and that's not so good.
Exactly. You become a energetic or a magnetic match to what you be and who you are. If you think about, you know, codependent relationships, it's the same side of the same coin. You know, the codependent person gets their value and worth out of what they give. And then the narcissistic person gets their value and their worth out of what they get. So they're feeding into each other's unhealthy needs of being fulfilled from the other person. So they're both eating each other in unhealthy ways, just on two different sides of the coin. But the healthy person gets their love and worthiness from within. So I don't have to overgive in order to be worthy, and I don't have to manipulate and control and take in order to feel worthy. I just am worthy. And then from that place, I become a magnetic match to other people. And then that's how you create interdependent relationships where I fulfill your needs, you fulfill my needs, we communicate and we compromise. We don't sacrifice, because sometimes also it gets to be too much on the other side. It's like, oh, you just have to be 100% independent. And if you have any needs or wants from another person, you know, that's not true either. We're human beings and we're communal beings, and we're supposed to have relationships, romantic and friendships and family, but they're supposed to be interdependent. One whole person and another whole person coming together to meet each other's needs in a healthy, balanced way.
Yeah. So you have to like give of yourself, but not be so interdependent. Like you're like, oh, you know, I'm so comfortable. You have to always chase me, right? But then you don't always want to be chasing that person. So it's like you said, it's like striking that balance.
Exactly. You know, in any healthy relationship, romantic or not, you have to be able to compromise, but not sacrifice. Compromise means I'm going to give a little, you're going to give a little, but I'm not going to give to the point of the detriment of myself. And I'm not going to expect you to give to me to the detriment of yourself.
Right.
The way you know if it's a sacrifice or a compromise is, how do you feel? Does it feel icky on the inside? Do you feel a little resentful? Do you feel a little bit bitter? You know, that's how you know whether or not you're compromising or you're sacrificing. And usually a sacrifice, it's only one person that's abandoning themselves and to the detriment of themselves to make the other person feel comfortable, you know. But with compromise, both people are coming to the table.
Yeah. So kind of like in summary, I mean, it's like taking inventory of yourself first, right? Like you said, looking at all the different buckets and seeing how you're relating to those buckets, finance, relationships, and kind of doing an assessment. And then kind of once you lay that out, kind of starting to manifest the life you want to live, whether it's relationships. Do you think then they should like write a journal and like, okay, this is my ideal partner. And this is, I want, somebody who's independent, it's got a job, is loving.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I have a couple of tools and techniques for manifesting love in a healthy relationship. So one, yes, journaling, but I also love scripting. So scripting is when you write, like, it could be like a journal entry, but you write it in either present tense, as if this is happening, or you write it in the past tense, like it already has happened, of what you want. So it could be like, dear diary, like, today was the most amazing day. My husband, I actually just did this journal entry today.
Wow.
My husband just brought me, breakfast in bed with like our favorite croissant and lattes, and we ate it out on our balcony in our amazing home. I love how I feel so supported and secure and loved in our relationship. I love how respectful we both are. I love how chosen I feel. My husband has all these great qualities. He's so honest, and he's this, and these are the things we love to do together. So it's really living in the end result, living in that position of, I already have my divine partner. I already have that healthy, loving, committed relationship I want. And this is what it looks, and this is the trick, and this is what it feels like.
Right. Like you're experienced it. Yeah.
Yeah, because the feeling is what will manifest. The feeling of being chosen, the feeling of being loved. And so once you fill yourself with that feeling, then you don't feel like you have to go chase somebody or manipulate them or stalk their Instagram or text them all day long or see who they're with, because you've already filled yourself up with that love. And since you're filled up with that love, you have no choice. Like, the world has no choice but to mirror that love back to you. And again, manifestation is just making that invisible, intangible consciousness of who you be evident. So the way that we make that love, feeling loved, evident is through the healthy relationship. Someone showing up for you consistently, somebody loving you authentically, someone coming to the table with you, someone wanting to marry you, someone wanting to honoring you, because again, you gave it to yourself first. So there's one thing to do in scripting. Another thing that you can do is, it's called inner conversations. And this is really made famous by Neville Goddard. And so inner conversations is almost like a meditation, where you just go in the meditation and, like, say you have a particular person that you want to be with, or maybe it's a new love. Maybe you don't know the person, but you can still, sort of have a mental image or feeling of what your partner would feel like. And then just in that visualization, visualize yourself just going on a date, or laying in bed and watching TV, or eating dinner at the dinner table, or walking down the aisle, whatever it is. Just think about and really immerse yourself into what would just a very average, typical scene or moment would look and feel like when I am in that desired relationship. And that really gets you in there, and it really takes away any neediness or desperation. And it also shows you how good it can feel. So then if you meet someone and they're gaslighting you, or they're manipulating you, or or it's very hot and cold, then you say, wait a minute, I actually know what real love feels like. And this is it.
Yeah. And so the bar just got raised, and it's not acceptable.
Exactly. And then also you can make that list, my husband is very kind, empathetic, spiritually minded, committed, loyal, and people are like, don't worry about what they look like. No, if I am co-creating my life, I'm doing everything. I'm doing his attributes, his values, and what he looks like. This is my life. Why stop there? I came to have a life, and I came to have it abundantly. So let's get it all down there. It's like my mom she told me one thing. She's like, oh, this woman prayed for a husband who was all these things. And she was like, oh, but she forgot to say that he was like attractive, and he was, all that stuff. Right. So it's like, don't limit yourself again by what you think. There's no like virtue in being like, well, I don't care what they look like. Well, sexual attraction is a part of romantic love. And that's,
it's like settling, like,
it's settling.
Oh, I don't care. That's okay. I'll just take this.
No, you have chemistry with your person, because that's what really makes a holistic and truly healthy romantic relationship. It's intellectual. It's, emotional, it's mental, and it's also physical and sexual. And we're human beings, and that's a beautiful part of life that we get to enjoy. And there's no shame around that. So I put on there, I want them to look like this, and I want them to have that, and this and this and this. It's your life that you get to create. So dream as big as you can.
And I don't know why people don't like look at it bigger picture and want that, like want, and how so often they excuse so many times bad behavior. Like, it's like, why aren't they just cutting that off and like, okay, I don't feel good, I'm chasing, I'm worried, I'm looking my phone to see, like, no, goodbye. That's a deficit.
It's a deficit. And the thing is, it's almost an addiction. It's almost an addiction. It's almost like they get this weird high from the roller coaster of everything, from the drama of it all, from the, hot and cold, and from the, no contact, and all these very emotionally abusive tactics that people use to keep control over you. And then once they do text you, or they do call you, or they do get back, and it's weird, you feel like you won something or you proved something. And it's very bizarre, but it's almost like an addict. They're looking for that next hit when that person validates them. So and that's another reason why, like, self-accountability is so important. Like, yes, people are accountable if they're abusive towards you, but you are accountable for what you choose to tolerate. And so you have to show that you ultimately condition people on how much you will tolerate and how they can and cannot treat you. And if a person isn't healthy, they will just keep pushing that level, pushing that level, pushing that level, pushing that level, pushing that level. And when you have no boundaries for yourself, and remember, it is up to you to enforce a boundary. You can't sit around and be like, I expect everyone to respect me. No, respect yourself, create the boundary, and then enforce it.
Right.
And then
I forget who said this, but it was so profound. It's like 90% of your happiness in your life is choosing a great partner. Like, it's 100%. So important. It's so impactful. Like, if you don't choose the right partner from the beginning, and you settle for something less than, you could be setting yourself up for such a rocky road, and it's like, choose a wonderful life, make
especially if you have children with them. That to me blows my mind. Like, who you choose to marry and who you have children with are massively will affect the rest of your life. Because especially once you have a child, it's not just about you anymore. Now this person is in your child's life, either to the child's detriment, if they're an unhealthy person, so it's so important. And it's like, if you're settling, then what are you giving to your child as well? And then that's a lifelong contract. Even if that person abandons you and your child, they're not physically in your life anymore, that still has a profound traumatic wound on not just you, but also your child. So it's so important, because people can affect you not just physically, growing up with a father not there. Imagine how what I mean? What does that look like? Growing up with the absentee mother, what does that look like? So just because a person isn't physically there, it doesn't mean that their choices don't have huge traumatic effects on you and your children. And 100%. So when people are just like, oh, well, I turned 28, so I thought I'd get married and this was the person, or, oh my God, I'm 39 and a half, I just better settle because God forbid I turn 40. It's like, calm down. Like what are you talking about? Like, I can't wait to, you know what I mean? Yeah. You have such a freedom with that, Yeah. And so it's like, we have to get rid of these very archaic and patriarchal and just, quite frankly, ridiculous societal ideas that, particularly for women, if you're not this age and you don't have that, something's wrong with you, or your life is over, or it's over for you. Absolutely not. All of the women that I truly, really admire didn't really bloom probably until like 40 plus.
Yeah.
We're like, why?
We're learning so much about ourselves.
You're still learning so much about yourself, So to me, it's just like, we gotta get out of that. And then, and that's what we're teaching people. And that's why, particularly as women, we have such low self-esteem and so forth. That's why like models notoriously have such horrible self-esteem, because everything is built on external and what they look like. And they're so worried that they're no longer going to look like this, because if I don't look like this, then what do I have? If I turn 25, what's going to happen? And that's why are so prone to get into these unhealthy relationships, because from the day we're born, we're taught this is your only worth and value.
I'm curious, what set you on this path?
Oh yeah. So for me, what set me on the path was I grew up with a single mom with, I'm the youngest of 5 girls.
Oh, wow.
My mom is amazing. But just like I said, you know, she didn't choose the right partner and my dad wasn't around. So I became very codependent with my mother. You know, nothing that she did. It's just a very natural thing when you have a single parent. As a child, one, if not all of them, usually have more codependent personalities. So then as I got older, I started thinking, why can't I say no to people? You know, like,
are you like a people pleaser? Like
I was a complete textbook codependent, people pleaser, seeking validation from, you know, being the best student, being the best girlfriend, being the best friend, you know, no boundaries. Just, you can always go to Candy. She's a yes person. She's got it. She can do it, but I'll never ask for help. God forbid I ask for help. I don't need any help. I got this. I got this. I got this. And so right after college, I was working in a PR and marketing firm, and I was doing really well. But on the side, I was like writing and acting and doing all these creative stuff. But I was so scared to say that that's what I really wanted to do, because what if I failed? Whoa.
Yeah.
You know, what if I didn't? What if I fail? That Candy doesn't fail, you know?
Yeah.
So I had to work through my own, and this is so funny.
Your own fear of failing.
My own low self-esteem. Like, this is the thing. I had no idea I had low self-esteem at all. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I went to Georgetown, I did this, and I have friends, and I blah, 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 blah. But because where I was getting my value and my worth was outside of myself. I was looking to every person or thing outside of me to tell me that I was good enough, that I was worthy, that I was valuable. As long as I am useful to you, then I'm valuable to you, so then you won't leave me. It was the stereotypical abandonment wound. It was 100% cookie cutter fear of abandonment. If I don't give, then you're going to leave me. And if you leave me, that means I'm not good enough, and I'm not lovable, and I'm not worthy. So I had to learn how to shift from being codependent to what I call self-dependent, not independent, because I am independent, right? But I also want to have healthy interdependent relationships. But I had to learn how to be self-dependent, which meant my value and my worth comes from me. I'm not hustling.
Was there a pivotal moment that like the light bulb went on, and then you like said, okay, I'm going to do some changes here, and here's what I'm going to do?
Yes. So I had just gone through a really bad breakup. And I had quit my job in corporate America. I was living in New York, and then I moved to LA, and I was like, I'm going to do it. I was like, I'm going to do content creation full time. Like, I was like, I have my savings, but that's it. So I got to figure out how to make this work, you know, because I'm not going back to corporate America. I'm not going to just sit there for 20 years and have not lived the life that I feel called to live. And I was like, I got to make it work. So I wanted to do content creation full time. But the same me showed up, even though like the same me in corporate America that couldn't say no, that had no boundaries, that, you know, was a people pleaser, was the same me showing up there. But this time the stakes were different, because if I wasn't able to say, no, I will not work for free, these are what my rates are, you know, then learning how to take care of myself so I don't burn out, you know, so I can still show up fully without being exhausted or all of that stuff. But the stakes were higher. And so I was like, what is going on where I get this pit in my stomach just to say what my value is, just to say no, not just in business, but like to friends or to, you know, boyfriends or whatever it was. Like, what is going on with me? And I decided this is not the life I was meant to live. So I got into therapy. because I wanted to figure out what was going on. And then that's how I learned, well, this is what codependency is. Is this how you feel? Is this what it looks like? And then let's give you the tools and the techniques to sort of unlearn that, to get unconditioned, and then build from a new place of your own self-worth and your own self-value. And I remember there was this one particular conversation I had with my therapist, and she looked at me and she goes, Candy, do you think your life is valuable? And I was blown away because I had never in my life stopped to think, do I think my life is valuable? I always thought about the needs and wants of everybody else. What does my mom need? What do my sisters need? What does my boyfriend need? What do my friends need? What does my boss need? Now, what does my audience need? Because I'm a content creator and everything's on me now. So once the pressure cooker was on, because being codependent in corporate America, you could float. You're not happy, but you could float.
Yeah.
It's actually even rewarded. I didn't leave my job because I wasn't doing well. I left my job because I was about to be promoted and I would have to quit all the other stuff I was doing. Like, we're going to promote you, but you got to stop with the writing. You got to stop with the side stuff. You got to say what you would need to commit to us. And because that type of personality is rewarded, that yes, worker bee is very, very, very much.
Well, and I'm sure the paycheck and the security is also very like, oh gosh, I'm gonna
oh gosh, exactly. It's like, well, no matter what, I know I'm getting like every 2 weeks, I'm getting this paycheck. I have this healthcare plan. It's fine. Whatever it is, you can easily float. But I decided to jump because I said, I don't want to just coast through my life. I want to be present and I want to be active in my life. And I know that there's a different vision for my life that I have. And I got really clear on what my personal purpose was. I was like, why is Candy Washington on this earth? And I got clear that my personal purpose is to add value to the lives of others through storytelling, whether it's through podcasts or books or films or just conversations like this. We're just sitting and telling each other and telling stories, but we're adding so much value to each other, and sharing and creating community. But then as I continued on my journey to healing and becoming a more whole person and a more actual person with self-esteem, like now I have like authentic self-esteem.
Yeah, right.
Before I thought I did, but I didn't.
Through it, and you gained this.
And I gained all that, and then it really clicked. And then I was like, oh, you know what? The most important story I will ever tell is my own.
Yeah.
That is actually the story that I'm writing, is the story of my own life. And that is the essence of manifestation, is knowing that you are the author of your life. You get to write the script. You get to decide who you be, what you have, and what you do, that you are actually the authority. And that is the story that you're writing. It's your own story. Because think about anybody that you admire. Sure, they've done some great things, but you always want to think of, the question always is, well, what's their story? Right. Where did they come from? What did they overcome? How did they get where they are? How do they think? How do they be? The stuff that they do is great, but it's more about, like, I think about Steve Jobs. Sure, iPhone and all this stuff, but the story that, like, he was fired from his own company and then he came back to be the founder and look what he did. Yeah. That is what is actually inspiring.
Yeah, inspiring. Yeah. And I mean, what courage it took you, but now look how empowered you must feel, like so confident, so empowered, so like authentic to yourself, like, can handle probably so many different situations, I would imagine too.
Yeah. And it's like, I think what's most powerful is that even on the days that I don't feel good, that I don't feel positive, because, we're all human beings and we all have moments of just having a funky day, just not being in the mood, feeling like, oh, somebody cut me off in traffic, or somebody said something to me weird, or something has happened and it triggered something from a past trauma, or, whatever it is. We're all human and we all have those moments. But I think the thing I'm most grateful for in my healing journey is that I learned that I get to be human. Yeah, I get to feel the entire spectrum, the joy, but the pain, the happiness, but the sadness, the laughter, but being pissed off, being angry, feeling whatever it is. But now I know that I have the tools to get through it. So I can be angry in this moment, but I know how to take care of myself. I know how to soothe myself so I don't become an angry person. So I get to feel everything that humanity has to offer, but I also tap into my divinity so it doesn't consume me.
Exactly. And I think a key part of your growth, and I can relate to this, is that you jumped out of your comfort zone, like big time. Right. And I had a similar experience, you know, in the 90s, where I had a great job in Hollywood at a big entertainment studio. And I was married and I lived, you know, near the beach in LA. Everything was great, but I really truly was not happy. And
Yep.
so all of a sudden I got a divorce. I quit the studio job and I relocated to Northern California. And I remember I was terrified. I
Yeah.
was so out of my, and I had friends in the background going, "What are you doing? Why are you leaving
The
that job?
naysayers. Yep.
Yeah, are you sure?" And I can't tell you how blessed my life has become from jumping off. But I also had to be okay with, and I said this to myself, it's okay if I make this move and I have just an apartment and I have a cat and I just work, and that's okay. But what
Yep.
happened where all these blessings came into my life, you know, a new husband, a new life, a new, you know.
Yeah.
So I think too, like you, the growth is making that leap and pushing people out of their comfort zone and start thinking, yes, you deserve this life, you can have this life, and manifesting it.
You know, and in your story, you brought up such a beautiful thing that's actually sort of like the secret sauce, self-acceptance. You said, whether it works out in this grand way or not, I'm okay. And
Yeah,
self-acceptance is that secret sauce that activates all of the blessing and everything to come. Because then you no longer have lack or neediness or resistance, like this has to work. And you also, through self-acceptance, you surrender.
right.
You
Exactly.
surrender. You're like, you know what? If this is it, that's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And even
okay.
though I surrendered, I was still terrified. You know,
Oh, of
the moment
course.
I moved to Northern California, the moment I walked into that new job going, oh my gosh, okay, here we go. But then, you know, 3 months in, I was like, oh, great, this is so fun, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I so want to thank you for coming on today. I mean, such insight and so important to the whole ArmyPink and, you know, what we're trying to share. And like I said, I think this is so critical to get people to think from the beginning about the mate you want to choose, the life you want to live. I know you did the movie. You've got your, is it called Soft Life podcast?
Yes. So I have the movie Narcissist. It's on Amazon Prime Video and SoFi TV. I also have the Soft Life podcast, and that's available across all podcast platforms. And then I also do courses on self-love, on manifestation, and you can find them at candywashington.com/courses. I also have a free self-love guide. And for everybody listening, I will give you a code, ArmyPink, and everybody can get 10% off.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, and it's so important. I hope people will take you up on that. It's just so needed.
I'll donate the proceeds to Peace Over Violence as well.
And we're a part of that organization.
Yeah,
As,
yeah, because
yeah,
right, yeah.
with our ArmyPink pendant. Well, thank you, Candy, and I hope our audience will like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and look and tune in. We always have such great guests like Candy, and we're always learning something new. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, bye, everyone.